The cream-colored envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, mixed in with the usual stack of bills and junk mail. My name was written in elegant calligraphy across the front, the kind of formal script that screamed expensive wedding stationery. I knew what it was before I even opened it. Marcus and Rebecca's wedding invitation. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I sat at my kitchen table, still in my pajamas, staring at the gold-embossed card. Marcus James Harrison and Rebecca and Sullivan request the honor of your presence at their wedding ceremony. The words blurred together as I read the formal announcement of my ex-husband's second marriage. Mommy, what's that? 7-year-old Emma bounced into the kitchen, her curly brown hair, so much like Marcus's, bouncing with each step. She was already dressed for school in her favorite purple dress, the one Marcus had bought her last weekend during his custody visit. It's an invitation, sweetheart, I said, sliding the card back into its envelope. To a wedding. Emma's eyes lit up. A wedding? Can we go? I love weddings. Remember when we watched that princess movie and she had the big dress? I forced a smile, my heart clenching. It's Daddy's wedding, Em. He's marrying Rebecca. The excitement in Emma's face shifted to confusion. But I thought you were Daddy's wife. I was, baby. But sometimes grown-ups decide they're better as friends. Remember how we talked about that? Emma nodded solemnly, though I could see the wheels turning in her 7-year-old mind. Will Rebecca be my new mommy? The question hit me like a physical blow. I'd been dreading this conversation for months, ever since Marcus had announced his engagement to Rebecca, his dental hygienist who was 15 years younger than both of us. Rebecca with her perfect smile and endless energy, who took Emma to the zoo and bought her ice cream and never seemed to have a hair out of place. No, sweetheart. I'm your mommy. Rebecca will be your stepmommy. Some kids have both. Emma seemed to accept this explanation, grabbing her backpack and heading toward the door. Are we going to the wedding? I looked at the invitation again, noting the date, 3 weeks away, on a Saturday. Marcus had invited me. Actually invited me to watch him marry another woman. The audacity would have been laughable if it weren't so painful. We'll see, Em. We'll see. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. After dropping Emma at school, I drove to my office on autopilot. As a marketing consultant for small businesses, I usually love the variety of my work, helping mom-and-pop shops compete with big chains, crafting social media strategies for local restaurants, building brands from the ground up. But today, everything felt gray and lifeless. My assistant, Chloe, knocked on my door around 10. Sarah? You okay? You've been staring at your computer screen for 20 minutes without typing anything. I looked up, realizing she was right. The proposal I'd been working on for a new client was exactly where I'd left it an hour ago. Sorry, just distracted. Chloe, who was more friend than employee after 3 years of working together, closed the door and sat down. What's wrong? You look like someone died. I laughed bitterly. Just my dignity. Marcus invited me to his wedding. He what? Chloe's voice pitched higher. That's insane. Why would he do that? I think he thinks he's being mature. Evolved. Showing Emma that we can all be one big happy family. I pulled the invitation from my purse and slid it across the desk. Look at this. Look at the venue. Chloe's eyes widened as she read. St. Mark's Cathedral? Holy shit, Sarah. That's where you two got married. Language, I said automatically, then caught myself. But yeah. Same church. Same altar. Same pews. Where our families sat 10 years ago when we promised to love each other forever. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus had chosen our church, the place where we'd spoken our vows, where Emma had been baptized, where I'd thought we'd renew our vows someday, to marry his new wife. It felt like a deliberate slap in the face, though I knew Marcus well. Enough to know he was probably just being thoughtless rather than cruel. You're not going, right? Chloe asked, but I could see the concern in her eyes. I don't know. Emma wants to go. She's excited about it. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building. Marcus specifically mentioned in his email that he wanted Emma there, with me. Said it would mean a lot to both of them. Both of them? Rebecca wants you there too. I pulled up Marcus's email on my phone and read it aloud. Sarah, I know this might seem unconventional, but Rebecca and I would really love to have you and Emma at the wedding. We want to start this new chapter with everyone there, showing Emma that we're all family. It would mean the world to us if you could come. Chloe made a face. That's actually kind of sweet. In a weird, twisted way. Is it? Or is it just another way for Marcus to have his cake and eat it too? He gets to look like the good guy who's so mature and forward-thinking, while I have to sit there and watch him marry someone else. The truth was, I wasn't sure how I felt about Rebecca. She'd been nothing but kind to Emma, never overstepping boundaries or trying to replace me. When Emma talked about her weekends with Daddy, she always had stories about Rebecca taking her to the park or helping her with art projects. Rebecca sent me photos when they did Emma's hair or took her shopping. Always checking if it was okay first. In another life, I might have actually liked Rebecca. She was sweet, genuine, and clearly cared about Emma. But in this life, she was the woman who'd captured my ex-husband's heart, who'd be wearing a wedding dress in the church where I'd worn mine, who'd be promising to love the man I'd once thought I'd grow old with. What does your therapist say? Chloe asked. I'd been seeing Dr. Martinez for 6 months, ever since the divorce was finalized. She specialized in helping people navigate co-parenting relationships, which had seemed like a good idea at the time. Now I wondered if she'd ever dealt with anything quite this complicated. She says I need to do what's best for Emma, but also protect my own emotional well-being. Very helpful, right? Super helpful, Chloe agreed sarcastically. Want my opinion? Always. I think you should go. I stared at her. Seriously? Hear me out. You're going to wonder forever what it was like. You're going to imagine it being perfect and beautiful and everything your wedding wasn't. But if you go, you'll see it's just a wedding. Marcus is just a man. Rebecca is just a woman. And Emma will see that her mom is strong enough to handle anything. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Marcus's name appeared on the screen. Speak. Of the devil, I muttered, then answered. Hi, Marcus. Sarah, hey. Did you get the invitation? His voice was carefully neutral, the tone he used when he was nervous but trying to hide it. I'd been married to him for 8 years, I knew all his tells. I did. It's beautiful. Rebecca picked out the design. She has great taste. There was a pause. So, what do you think? About coming? I looked at Chloe, who was making encouraging gestures. I'm thinking about it. For Emma's sake. That's great. Really great. Emma's been so excited about it. She keeps asking Rebecca about her dress and whether she can help with the flowers. A pang of something, jealousy? Sadness? Shot through me. She mentioned wanting to go when she saw the invitation this morning. Rebecca thought maybe Emma could be in the wedding party. Like a junior bridesmaid or something. We should have asked you first, but, Marcus. My voice was sharper than I intended. You want Emma in your wedding to another woman? I want Emma to feel included. To feel like she's part of this new family we're building. New family. The word stung. What about the family you already built? The one you walked away from? Silence stretched between us. I could hear Marcus breathing, could picture him running. His hand through his hair the way he did when he was frustrated. Sarah, I know this is hard. But we're divorced. We both need to move on. I have moved on, I lied. I'm just trying to figure out what's best for Emma. Then come. Please. It would mean everything to me, to us, to have you there. After hanging up, I sat in silence for several minutes. Chloe had gone back to her desk, giving me space to think. Outside my office window, I could see the park where I sometimes took Emma on weekends. There was a playground there, and benches where other divorced parents sat during custody exchanges. I thought about the last time I'd been in St. Mark's Cathedral. It was for Emma's baptism, when she was 3 months old. Marcus and I had stood at the same altar where he'd soon marry Rebecca, promising to raise our daughter in faith and love. We'd been so young, so sure of our future together. The divorce had been finalized 18 months ago, but the separation had started long before that. Marcus had been working longer hours, staying late at the office, going on more business trips. I'd been so focused on taking care of Emma and building my consulting business that I'd barely noticed until it was too late. The revelation of his affair with Rebecca had been devastating, but in retrospect, not surprising. I'd felt him pulling away for months. When he finally admitted he'd been seeing someone else, part of me was almost relieved to finally understand why he'd become so distant. The divorce itself had been relatively amicable, thanks to our lawyers and Emma's needs. Marcus had moved out, we'd agreed on joint custody, and I'd gotten the house. He'd been generous with child support, and we'd managed to maintain a civil relationship for Emma's sake, but this wedding felt different. Bigger. More final. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma's school. Emma says she has something important to tell you when you pick her up today. She's very excited. Mrs. Patterson, I smiled despite everything. Whatever drama was happening in my life, Emma remained the bright spot. Her resilience amazed me. She'd adapted to the divorce better than I had, accepting the new normal with the flexibility that only children possess. When I picked her up that afternoon, she practically bounced to the car. Mommy. I told Mrs. Patterson about Daddy's wedding, and she said weddings are when two people promise to love each other forever and ever. And she said I'm probably going to be the most beautiful girl there. I buckled her into her car seat, trying to match her enthusiasm. Did you tell her about the wedding? I told everyone. I told Jake and Mia and Tyler and Mrs. Patterson and the lunch lady and probably some other people too. Oh. And I drew a picture of what I think Rebecca's dress will look like. Want to see? She pulled a crumpled paper from her backpack. The drawing showed a stick figure in a triangular white dress with what appeared to be an extremely long veil. Another stick figure, presumably Marcus, stood nearby in a black rectangle. And there, off to the side, was a smaller stick figure with curly hair labeled me. It's beautiful, sweetheart. You're a very good artist. Do you think Rebecca will like it? Can I give it to her? I studied the drawing, noting that while Emma had included herself, there was no stick figure representing me. In her 7-year-old mind, the wedding was about Daddy and Rebecca and her. I was just the person who would drive her there. I think she'll love it. But maybe we should wait until we know for sure we're going to the wedding. We're going, right? We have to go. I already told everyone we're going. I pulled into our driveway, buying myself time to think. Emma unbuckled herself and ran toward the house, still clutching her drawing. I followed more slowly, my mind racing. Inside, I found Emma in her room, already pulling dresses from her closet. I need to find the perfect dress for the wedding, she announced. It has to be fancy but not too fancy because I don't want to be fancier than Rebecca because it's her day. But I also want to look beautiful. And I want to match you. What are you going to wear, Mommy? I sat on her bed, watching her methodically examine each dress. I'm not sure we're going yet, Em. She stopped mid-examination and turned to me with wide eyes. What do you mean? Well, sometimes grown-ups have complicated feelings about things. And weddings can be complicated. Emma put down the dress she was holding and climbed onto the bed next to me. Are you sad about Daddy marrying Rebecca? The question was so direct, so innocent, that it caught me off guard. A little bit, maybe. But not because I don't want Daddy to be happy. Then why? How do you explain to a 7-year-old that watching your ex-husband marry someone else in the church where you got married feels like having your heart torn out? How do you explain that every time she talks about Rebecca, part of you dies a little because you're terrified of being replaced? How do you explain that you're scared of sitting in that church and realizing that Marcus is happier with Rebecca than he ever was with you? Sometimes change is hard for grown-ups, I said finally. Even when it's good change. Emma nodded seriously. Like when we moved to this house after Daddy moved to his apartment? Exactly like that. But we like this house now. And I like Daddy's apartment too. And I like Rebecca. She paused. Are you worried I won't love you as much if I love Rebecca too? Kids, I thought. They cut straight to the heart of things without even trying. Maybe a little bit, I admitted. Emma threw her arms around me in a fierce hug. Mommy, I will always love you the most. You're my real mommy. Rebecca is just bonus. I hugged her back, feeling tears prick my eyes. You're pretty smart, you know that? I know. So can we go to the wedding? Please? I really want to go. And I think it would make Daddy happy. And Rebecca too. Looking down at my daughter's hopeful face, I realized I'd already made my decision. I was going to that wedding. Not because I wanted to, not because it would be easy, but because Emma wanted to go, and her happiness mattered more than my discomfort. Okay, I said. We'll go. Emma's squeal of delight was worth every moment of anxiety I was feeling. She jumped up and resumed her dress examination with renewed vigor, chattering about hairstyles and shoes and whether she should bring Rebecca the drawing as a wedding gift. As I watched her plan for her father's wedding with such pure joy, I realized that maybe Chloe had been right. Maybe I needed to see this wedding for what it was, not the end of something, but the beginning of something new. A new family configuration that included Emma, Marcus, Rebecca, and yes, even me. The next 3 weeks would be about preparation, both practical and emotional. I'd need to find a dress that was appropriate for your ex-husband's wedding. What exactly was the etiquette for that? Figure out how to sit in a church full of people who knew our history, and prepare myself for the reality of watching Marcus promise to love someone else. But for now, I was content to sit on Emma's bed, watching her hold up dresses and ramble about wedding plans, letting her excitement wash over me like a balm for all the complicated emotions I was carrying. After all, if a 7-year-old could handle her father's remarriage with such grace and joy, surely I could manage it too, right? The department store's fluorescent lights felt harsh against my skin as I rifled through rack after rack of dresses. What exactly does one wear to their ex-husband's wedding? The fashion magazines had never covered this particular social situation. Too black, I muttered, putting back a sleek cocktail dress. Too white. Too bridal. Chloe, who had volunteered to accompany me on this bizarre shopping expedition, held up a navy blue dress with 3/4 sleeves. This one's nice. Conservative but not frumpy. Says, I'm here for my daughter, not to cause drama. Perfect. That's exactly the vibe I'm going for. I took the dress, examining it critically. Think it screams, emotionally stable ex-wife, loud enough? Honey, at this point, I think you're overthinking it. It's a dress, not a dissertation on your mental health. She was right, of course. But everything about this wedding felt loaded with meaning. Every choice, from what I wore to where I sat to how I smiled, would be scrutinized by people who remembered when Marcus and I were happy, who had opinions about our divorce, who would be watching to see how I handled seeing him marry someone else. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Hey, just wanted to check in. How are you feeling about everything? Rebecca's been worried you might be uncomfortable. I showed the message to Chloe, who rolled her eyes. He's checking in? Now? 3 weeks before the wedding? He's nervous, I realized. He's probably having second thoughts about inviting me. Good. He should be nervous. This is insane. I typed back, I'm fine. Emma's excited. See you Saturday. Short, sweet, and revealing nothing about the fact that I'd been having anxiety dreams about the wedding every night for a week. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was in my home office, trying to focus on a client presentation, when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Rebecca standing on my porch, looking nervous and holding a small gift bag. My stomach dropped. This was new territory. Rebecca had always been polite during pickups and drop-offs, but she'd never come to my house alone before. Hi, she said when I opened the door. I hope this isn't weird. I wanted to talk to you about the wedding. She looked younger than her 28 years, with her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail and minimal makeup. She was wearing scrubs. She must have come straight from the dental office where she worked. Come in, I said, stepping aside. Can I get you coffee? That would be great, thanks. We settled in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd opened her wedding invitation 2 weeks ago. Rebecca fidgeted with the gift bag, clearly nervous. I wanted to give you this, she said, sliding the bag across the table. It's for Emma. For the wedding. Inside was a small jewelry box containing a delicate silver bracelet with a tiny heart charm. A note in Rebecca's neat handwriting read. For Emma, so you'll always know you're loved. Love, Rebecca. It's beautiful, I said, and meant it. She'll love it. I also wanted to talk to you about everything. About the wedding, about Emma, about this whole situation. Rebecca took a deep breath. I know this is weird for you. It's weird for me too. I studied her face, looking for signs of the manipulation or cruelty I'd half expected. Instead, I saw genuine concern and what looked like guilt. Marcus said you specifically wanted me there, I said carefully. I did. I do. She wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. I know that probably sounds crazy, but I want Emma to see that we can all be, not friends, exactly, but not enemies either. I want her to know that loving me doesn't mean she has to love you less. The vulnerability in her voice caught me off guard. This wasn't the conversation I'd expected to have with my ex-husband's fiancée. Rebecca, can I ask you something? She nodded. Do you feel guilty? About how you and Marcus got together? She was quiet for a long moment. Every day. I never meant for it to happen. I was his hygienist, for God's sake. He was married, had a kid. I should have kept things professional. But you didn't. No. I didn't. She looked directly at me. I fell in love with him. And I know. That makes me a terrible person, but I can't change it now. All I can do is try to be good to Emma and hope that someday you won't hate me. Her honesty was disarming. I'd built up this image of Rebecca as a homewrecker, a young woman who deliberately set out to steal my husband. But sitting across from her, I saw something different, a woman who'd made a mistake and was trying to do better. I don't hate you, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. I'm angry about how things happened, but I don't hate you. Thank you for that. And thank you for letting Emma be part of the wedding. It means everything to Marcus. To both of us. After Rebecca left, I called Dr. Martinez and made an emergency appointment. I needed to process what had just happened, and I needed professional help to do it. How do you feel about Rebecca now? Dr. Martinez asked during our session that afternoon. Confused. I went into that conversation ready to dislike her, but she was so human. So genuine. I shifted in my chair. Is it weird that I almost felt sorry for her? Why would that be weird? Because she's marrying my ex-husband. Because she's going to be my daughter's stepmother. Because she's everything I'm not, young, blonde, uncomplicated. Do you think she's actually uncomplicated? I thought about the guilt I'd seen in Rebecca's eyes, the way she'd fidgeted with the gift bag, the vulnerability in her voice when she'd admitted to falling in love with Marcus. No. I think she's just as confused about this whole situation as I am. That's a significant realization, Sarah. How does that change your feelings about attending the wedding? I don't know. Maybe it makes it easier? If I can see her as a person instead of a threat. What would it mean for you to stop seeing her as a threat? The question hit me like a physical blow. Because the truth was, I did see Rebecca as a threat. Not to my marriage, that was already over, but to my role in Emma's life. Every time Emma came home from a weekend with Daddy talking about how Rebecca had done her hair or helped her with a project, I felt a stab of fear. What if Rebecca was better at being a mom than I was? What if Emma decided she preferred her younger, more fun stepmother? I'm afraid Emma will love her more than me, I admitted, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Has Emma given you any indication that she loves you less? I thought about the night before, when Emma had hugged me and called me her real mommy. About how she'd offered to hold my hand if I got sad at the wedding. About the way she still crawled into my bed during thunderstorms and insisted I was the only one who could make her favorite sandwich correctly. No, she hasn't. Then what are you really afraid of? I was afraid of being replaced. Afraid of becoming irrelevant. Afraid of watching my ex-husband build a better life with someone else while I sat alone in the house we'd once shared, wondering where I'd gone wrong, but I couldn't say any of that out loud. Not yet. That evening, Emma came home from school with a construction paper invitation in her backpack. Her friend Mia was having a birthday party the same day as the wedding. Can I go to both? Emma asked, studying the invitation. The party is in the morning and the wedding is in the afternoon. Let me check with Mia's mom about the timing, I said, but my heart sank. Part of me had been hoping something would come up that would give us an excuse not to go to the wedding. I hope I can go to both, Emma continued. I want to tell Mia about the wedding. She's never been to one. Emma, honey, you know you can't tell everyone all the details about the wedding, right? It's private. I know. But I can tell her about the dress and the flowers and the cake, right? And about how I'm going to be the most beautiful girl there after Rebecca. I smiled despite myself. Yes, you can tell her about those things. Emma bounded off to her room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through Facebook, immediately regretting it. My feed was full of engagement photos and wedding planning posts from friends. Everyone seemed to be coupling up, getting married, starting families. Everyone except me. I was about to close the app when I saw a post from Marcus. It was a photo of him and Rebecca at dinner, both smiling widely. The caption read, "2 weeks until I get to marry my best friend. Can't wait to start our forever." The comment section was full of congratulations and heart emojis. I recognized names from our old social circle, friends who had apparently chosen sides and picked Marcus. Or maybe they just picked the person who was moving forward instead of the one who was stuck in the past. I was about to close the app when I saw a comment from Marcus's mother, "So happy for you both. Rebecca is perfect for our family. Emma is lucky to have such a wonderful stepmom." Our family. The word stung. I'd been part of that family for 8 years, had holidays with them, had considered Marcus's parents my own. Now I was being erased from the narrative, replaced by someone who fit better into their vision of what Marcus's life should look like. My phone rang. Dr. Martinez. "Hi, Sarah. I wanted to check in after our session today. How are you feeling?" "Like I'm losing my mind," I admitted. "I just saw Marcus's social media and I don't know. It's like our marriage never happened. Like I never existed. That must be very painful." "But Sarah, their happiness doesn't negate your worth or your history with Marcus. You have Emma. You have a successful business. You have a life worth living. Then why does it feel like I'm disappearing?" "Because you're in transition. You're becoming someone new, and that's scary. But you're not disappearing. You're transforming." After hanging up, I went to check on Emma. She was in her room, surrounded by books about weddings she'd checked out from the school library. She'd made a list of questions about the ceremony and was practicing walking down an imaginary aisle. "Are you doing homework?" I asked. "I'm doing wedding homework," she said seriously. "I want to be perfect for Daddy's wedding. Look, I learned how to walk like a bride." She demonstrated a slow, careful walk across her room. "And I learned about what happens at the altar and about throwing rice, except Mrs. Patterson said they don't do rice anymore because it's bad for birds." I sat on her bed, watching her wedding preparations with a mixture of pride and heartbreak. She was taking this so seriously, so determined to be perfect for her father's big day. "Emma, you don't have to be perfect, right? Daddy loves you just the way you are." "I know. But I want to be the best daughter at the wedding. I want him to be proud of me." "He's always proud of you, sweetheart. You know that." Emma climbed onto the bed next to me. "Mommy, are you nervous about the wedding?" "A little bit," I admitted. "Sometimes grown-ups get nervous about big events. It's okay to be nervous. Mrs. Patterson said brides get nervous too, and it's normal." She paused. "Do you think Rebecca is nervous?" I thought about Rebecca's visit that morning, her fidgeting hands and earnest voice. "I think she probably is." "Maybe you could be nervous together," Emma suggested. "Then you could help each other feel better." Out of the mouths of babes. My 7-year-old daughter was suggesting I bond with my ex-husband's fiancé over our shared anxiety about their wedding. It was either the most mature suggestion I'd ever heard or the most absurd. "That's a very grown-up idea, Em." "I have lots of grown-up ideas. Like, I think we should bring Rebecca a present for the wedding. Not a wedding present, but like a, thank you for making Daddy happy, present." My chest tightened. "You want to thank her for making Daddy happy?" "Well, yeah. He is happy. He smiles more now. And he laughs at Rebecca's jokes. And he sings in the car when we're driving to get ice cream." Emma tilted her head. "You want Daddy to be happy, right?" "Of course I do." "Then we should thank Rebecca. Because she's good at making him happy. And she's good at making me happy too. She taught me how to braid hair and she always remembers that I don't like tomatoes on my sandwiches." I felt tears prick my eyes. Not from sadness, exactly, but from the realization that my daughter was handling this situation with more grace than I was. She'd accepted Rebecca into her life, appreciated her contributions, and wanted to express gratitude. Meanwhile, I was still struggling with feelings of replacement and inadequacy. "You're right," I said, my voice slightly thick. "We should thank her. Maybe we could make her cookies? I know she likes chocolate chip because she always eats them when Daddy makes them at his apartment." "That's a perfect idea." We spent the rest of the evening planning our cookie-making project. Emma was animated and excited, chattering about different recipes and whether we should use sprinkles. Watching her, I realized that she wasn't losing anything by gaining Rebecca as a stepmother. She was gaining something. Another person to love her, to care about her, to remember her sandwich preferences. Maybe that was the key to surviving this wedding. Instead of focusing on what I was losing, I needed to focus on what Emma was gaining. And maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to be grateful for that. The next morning, I made a decision that surprised even me. I called Marcus. "Hey," he answered on the second ring. "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine. I just wanted to ask you something. Are you happy?" There was a pause. That's a loaded question, Sarah. I know. But I need to know. Are you happy with Rebecca? Yes. I am. Very happy. Good. I'm glad. Are you okay? You sound different. I looked out my kitchen window at the garden where Emma and I had planted flowers last spring. They were blooming now, bright and colorful and full of life. I'm trying to be okay. For Emma. For all of us. Thank you. For being so, I don't know, mature about this. I know it can't be easy. It's not. But Emma loves you, and she loves Rebecca. And that's what matters. After hanging up, I felt lighter somehow. Not healed, not completely at peace, but lighter. Like I'd put down a weight I didn't realize I was carrying. 2 weeks until the wedding. 2 weeks to prepare myself for the hardest day I'd faced since our divorce was finalized. 2 weeks to figure out how to sit in that church and watch the father of my child promise to love someone else forever. But for the first time since receiving that cream-colored invitation, I thought I might actually be able to do it. The week before the wedding arrived with an intensity one hadn't expected. Every phone call, every text message, every interaction felt magnified. It was as if the universe was holding its breath, waiting to see how this unprecedented situation would unfold. Tuesday morning brought a call from my mother, who lived 3 states away and had been following the situation with the kind of fascination usually reserved for soap operas. "Sarah, honey, I still think you're crazy for going to this wedding," she said without preamble. "It's not natural. Ex-wives don't attend their former husbands' weddings. It's like wearing white to someone else's wedding." I was in my office, reviewing a marketing proposal for a client, but my mother's voice demanded full attention. "Mom, we've been through this. I'm going for Emma. That child is going to be confused for the rest of her life. First you get divorced, then you're all buddy-buddy with the woman who broke up your marriage. What's next? Are you going to babysit for them on their honeymoon?" Rebecca didn't break up my marriage. The marriage was already broken. The words came out sharper than I intended. And I'm not buddy-buddy with anyone. I'm trying to co-parent effectively. In my day, we called that enabling. I rubbed my temples, feeling a familiar headache building. "Mom, I need to go. I have a client meeting. Just promise me you won't do anything to embarrass yourself. Or our family." After hanging up, I sat staring at my computer screen, my mother's words echoing in my head. Was I embarrassing myself? Was I setting a bad example for Emma? Was I being too accommodating, too understanding, too willing to put everyone else's comfort before my own? My phone buzzed with a text from Emma's school. "Emma's teacher would like to speak with you. Could you call when convenient?" My heart sank. Emma had been so excited about the wedding, so positive about everything. What if she was having problems at school? What if the stress of the situation was affecting her more than I realized? I called immediately. "Mrs. Morrison? This is Sarah Chen, Emma's mother." "Oh, hi Sarah. Thank you for calling. I wanted to talk to you about Emma's behavior this week." Here it comes, I thought. The breakdown I'd been dreading. "She's been absolutely wonderful," Mrs. Morrison continued. "I've never seen her so mature and thoughtful. She's been helping other children with their problems, talking about how families can look different, and she even gave a presentation to the class about tolerance and acceptance. I just wanted to let you know what a remarkable job you're doing, raising her." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you. That means a lot." She mentioned her father's wedding this weekend. "She's handling it with such grace. You should be proud." I was proud. And terrified. And confused. But mostly proud. Wednesday brought an unexpected encounter at the grocery store. I was in the produce section, examining avocados, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Sarah?" I Turned to find Janet Collins, one of Marcus's colleagues from the insurance company where he worked. She was someone I'd considered a friend during our marriage, someone who'd been to our dinner parties and knew Emma since she was born. Janet. Hi. I forced a smile, acutely aware that I was wearing old jeans and a paint-stained t-shirt from a weekend project with Emma. I heard you're going to the wedding on Saturday. That's so mature of you. The way she said mature made it sound like a euphemism for something less flattering. Emma wanted to go. It's important to her. Of course. She's such a sweet girl. And Rebecca is just lovely with her. Really, Marcus couldn't have found a better stepmother for Emma. Each word felt like a small cut. Rebecca is very good with her, I agreed. It's wonderful that you're all getting along so well. Very modern. Very progressive. Janet's smile was bright and sharp. I have to say, I don't know if I could do it. Watching my ex-husband marry someone else? In the same church where we got married? That takes real strength. Or real stupidity, I thought. It's what's best for Emma. Of course. Everything for the children, right? Well, I should let you get back to your shopping. See you Saturday. She walked away, leaving me standing among the avocados, feeling like I'd just been dissected by a surgeon with a smile. Thursday evening, Emma and I made the chocolate chip cookies for Rebecca. Emma insisted on wearing her apron, a miniature version of mine that Marcus had given her for her birthday 2 years ago. She measured ingredients with scientific precision, chattering about the wedding while she worked. Do you think Rebecca will cry when she sees Daddy at the altar? Emma asked, stirring the cookie dough. She might. People often cry at weddings. Because they're so happy. Will you cry? The question caught me off guard. I might. But if I do, it'll be because I'm happy for Daddy. And maybe a little sad that things are changing. Emma nodded solemnly. Mrs. Patterson says change is hard. But usually good. Like when we moved to our new house. It was scary at first, but now I love my room. Mrs. Patterson is very wise. She also said that sometimes people cry at weddings because they're remembering their own wedding. Will you remember your wedding when you see Daddy's wedding? I paused. In my measuring, struck by the directness of her question. Probably. But that's okay. Remembering good things isn't bad, even when they're over. Did you love Daddy a lot when you married him? Very much. More than I thought it was possible to love someone. And now you love him different? Yes. Now I love him like a friend. Someone I care about because he's your daddy and because we shared important things together. Emma considered this while she spooned dough onto the baking sheet. That's good. I think it's good that you still love him, just different. Friday arrived with a flurry of last-minute preparations. Emma had laid out her pale blue dress, the silver bracelet from Rebecca, and her white patent leather shoes. She'd practiced walking slowly and sitting quietly, and she'd memorized the order of the ceremony from her library books. I'd picked up my navy dress from the dry cleaner and bought new shoes, low heels, practical, nothing that would draw attention. I'd made an appointment to get my hair done, not because I wanted to look beautiful, but because I wanted to feel put together. Armor, I told myself. Professional armor. That evening, Marcus called to confirm the logistics. So you'll meet us at the church, he asked. The ceremony starts at 2, but we're doing photos at 1:30. Actually, I thought Emma and I would come separately. I don't want to intrude on the wedding party preparations. You're not intruding. Rebecca specifically asked if you'd want to get ready with us. She thought it might be easier for Emma if you were all together. I closed my eyes, trying to imagine getting ready for Marcus's wedding alongside his bride. I think it's better if we come separately. But thank you. Okay. Well, we'll see you there. And Sarah? Thank you. For everything. I know this isn't easy for you. You're welcome. I hope it's everything you want it to be. After hanging up, I found Emma in the living room, surrounded by wedding planning books and a notebook where she'd been writing what looked like a speech. What are you working on, sweetheart? I'm writing what I want to say to Daddy and Rebecca after the wedding. Mrs. Patterson said that sometimes people make toasts at weddings, and I want to be ready. I sat down beside her, looking at her careful handwriting. What are you planning to say? I want to tell them that I'm happy they love each other, and that I love them both, and that I hope they have a really good marriage. And I want to thank Rebecca for being so nice to me and for making Daddy smile so much. My throat tightened. That's beautiful, Em. They'll love it. Do you think I should say something about you too? About how you're the best mommy and how you're being brave about the wedding? I think you should say whatever feels right to you. But maybe save some of those thoughts for just between us. Emma nodded, then looked at me with those serious brown eyes. Mommy, are you scared about tomorrow? A little bit. Are you? A little bit. But I think it's going to be okay. And if it's not okay, we'll figure it out together. I hugged her close, marveling at her wisdom and strength. You're absolutely right. We'll figure it out together. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing despite my exhaustion. Tomorrow, I would sit in St. Mark's Cathedral, the same church where Marcus and I had promised to love each other forever, and watch him make those same promises to someone else. I would see our friends and family, people who had witnessed our marriage and our divorce, and I would have to smile and act happy while my heart broke a little more, but I would also see Emma's joy, her excitement about being part of something special. I would see Marcus's happiness, the light in his eyes that had been missing during the last years of our marriage. And I would see Rebecca, nervous and hopeful, starting a new chapter with the man I'd once loved with everything I had. Maybe that was enough. Maybe surviving this wedding wasn't about me at all. Maybe it was about proving to myself that I could put Emma's needs first, that I could handle whatever life threw at me, that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. At some point during the night, I must have fallen asleep, because I woke to the sound of Emma's voice calling from her room. Mommy, it's wedding day. Are you ready? I looked at the clock, 6:30 a.m. The wedding wasn't until 2 p.m., but Emma was clearly too excited to sleep. I'm ready, sweetheart. Are you? I've been ready for weeks. I smiled, feeling some of her excitement wash over me. Whatever happened today, we would face it together. And somehow, that made everything seem possible. The morning passed in a blur of preparation. Emma insisted on eating a proper breakfast. I don't want my stomach to growl during the ceremony, and then we began the ritual of getting ready. I helped her into her dress, braided her hair the way Rebecca had taught her, and watched her slip on the silver bracelet. Do I look like I belong at a wedding? She asked, twirling in front of the mirror. You look perfect, I said, and meant it. She was radiant, glowing with happiness and anticipation. My own preparations were more subdued. I put on the navy dress, styled my hair in a simple updo, and applied makeup with a careful hand. The woman in the mirror looked composed, professional. Ready for business. Good. That's exactly what I was going for. At 12:30, we loaded the chocolate chip cookies into the car and began the drive to St. Mark's Cathedral. Emma chattered nervously in the back seat, practicing her careful wedding walk and reminding me of all the etiquette rules she'd learned. Remember, we have to turn off our phones during the ceremony. And we have to stand up when the bride comes in. And we can't talk during the serious parts. I remember. You've been an excellent wedding consultant. As we pulled into the church parking lot, I felt my stomach clench. Cars were already arriving, people in wedding attire walking toward the stone building where Marcus and I had stood 11 years ago, young and hopeful and certain that we were writing a love story that would last forever. Are you ready? Emma asked, taking my hand as we walked toward the church. I'm ready, I said, surprised to find that it was true. Whatever happened in the next few hours, we would face it together. And that, I realized, was all the courage I needed. The heavy oak doors of St. Mark's Cathedral opened with a familiar creak that transported me back 11 years in an instant. The scent of old wood and lingering incense filled my nostrils, exactly as I remembered. The same stained glass windows cast colored light across the stone floor, the same high vaulted ceiling stretched above us, and the same altar where Marcus and I had exchanged vows stood at the far end of the nave. Emma's grip on my hand tightened as we stepped inside. The church was already half full, guests arriving in clusters of familiar faces from our shared past. I recognized Marcus's coworkers, college friends, neighbors from the subdivision where we'd lived together. Some turned to look at us, their expressions ranging from curious to sympathetic to openly shocked that I'd actually shown up. There's Mrs. Patterson. Emma whispered excitedly, waving at her teacher who was seated near the middle of the church with her family. Mrs. Patterson smiled and waved back, giving me an encouraging nod. An usher approached us, a young man I didn't recognize, probably one of Rebecca's brothers or cousins. Are you with the bride or groom? He asked with professional politeness. The question hung in the air awkwardly. Technically, I supposed I was with the groom, since I'd been married to him. But that felt wrong given the circumstances. Emma answered before I could speak. We're with both, she said confidently. I'm the groom's daughter, and this is my mommy. The usher's composure faltered slightly as he processed this information. I could see him trying to figure out the family dynamics, probably wondering if he'd stumbled into some kind of soap opera situation. Let me show you to your seats, he said finally, his professional smile returning. He led us toward the front of the church, past rows of guests whose conversations quieted as we passed. I heard whispered fragments, "That's his ex-wife. Brave of her to come. Poor thing." Each comment felt like a pinprick, but I kept my chin up and my expression neutral. We were seated in the third row on the groom's side, close enough to see everything but not so close as to be intrusive. Emma immediately began studying the elaborate flower arrangements, the white satin ribbons tied to the end of each pew, and the string quartet setting up near the altar. "It's so beautiful," she breathed. "Look at all the flowers. And the music. People. This is the fanciest wedding I've ever been to." "It's the only wedding you've ever been to," I reminded her with a smile. "Then it's the best one too." As more guests filed in, I recognized faces from different eras of Marcus's life. His college roommate Dave, who'd been his best man at our wedding, walked past with his wife. Their eyes met mine for a moment, and he gave me a small, respectful nod. His wife looked uncomfortable, as if she wasn't sure whether acknowledging me was appropriate. Marcus's parents entered together, his mother leaning heavily on his father's arm. She'd aged noticeably since the last time I'd seen her at Emma's birthday party 6 months ago. When she spotted us, her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, confusion, and finally something that might have been approval. She whispered something to her husband, who looked over and raised his hand in a small wave. "There's Grandma and Grandpa Harrison," Emma said, starting to wave enthusiastically before I caught her hand. "Remember what we talked about," I said quietly. "We're here to watch and celebrate, not to draw attention to ourselves." Emma nodded seriously, but I could see her excitement bubbling beneath the surface. This was her family, her father's special day, and she wanted to be part of it all. The church continued to fill, and I found myself studying the crowd, noting who was there and who wasn't. Several of our mutual friends were conspicuously absent. People who'd stayed in touch with me after the divorce but apparently felt attending Marcus's remarriage would be a betrayal. Others were there but seated far away, as if proximity to me might somehow taint their enjoyment of the ceremony. Rebecca's family began arriving in a group, easily identifiable by their collective nervousness and excitement. Her parents looked younger than Marcus's, her mother practically glowing with happiness. She was followed by what appeared to be a parade of siblings, cousins, and family friends, all chattering excitedly about the wedding. "Which one is Rebecca's, Mom?" Emma asked, studying the arrivals. "The woman in the pink dress who looks very happy," I said. "She's pretty. She looks like Rebecca but older. Most mothers and daughters look alike." Emma considered this. "Do I look like you?" I studied her face, seeing Marcus's eyes and chin but my own stubborn cowlick and the way she tilted her head when she was thinking. "You look like both of us. The best parts of both of us." The string quartet began playing background music, classical pieces I didn't recognize but that created an atmosphere of anticipation and romance. Emma swayed slightly in her seat, clearly enchanted by the live music. At exactly 1:45, a ripple of excitement went through the congregation. The groomsmen began taking their positions at the altar, and I felt my breath catch as Marcus appeared at the front of the church. He looked handsome in his black tuxedo, his hair styled and his face clean-shaven. But it was his expression that stopped me cold, pure, radiant joy. I'd seen Marcus happy before, of course. I'd seen him laugh and smile and celebrate. But this was different. This was the look of a man who'd found exactly where he belonged. Exactly who he was meant to be with. He'd never looked at me like that. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Even on our wedding day, even in our happiest moments, Marcus had never looked at me with that kind of absolute certainty, that complete and total joy. He'd loved me, I knew that. But this was something deeper, something more profound. "Daddy looks happy," Emma observed, waving at her father despite my earlier instructions. Marcus spotted her immediately, his face lighting up even more as he waved back discreetly. "Yes," I managed. He does. The music changed, signaling the beginning of the processional. Rebecca's bridesmaids began their walk down the aisle, 4 young women in soft lavender dresses, each carrying bouquets of white roses and baby's breath. They moved with practiced grace, their faces glowing with excitement for their friend. I watched Marcus's face as each bridesmaid passed, saw him maintaining his composure while clearly fighting back emotion. This was his moment, his new beginning, and everything about his posture and expression said he was exactly where he wanted to be. The music changed again, and the congregation rose as one. My legs felt shaky as I stood, Emma's hand finding mine instinctively. The heavy wooden doors at the back of the church opened, and Rebecca appeared. She was stunning. Her dress was simple but elegant, a classic A-line with delicate lace sleeves and a long train that flowed behind her like water. Her hair was styled in an elaborate updo with small white flowers woven throughout, and her face was radiant with happiness and anticipation. She looked young and beautiful and absolutely perfect for this moment, but what struck me most was her expression as she began her walk down the aisle. She was looking directly at Marcus, and her face held the same expression I'd seen on his. Pure, uncomplicated joy. They were looking at each other as if no one else existed in the world, as if this moment was exactly what they'd been waiting their entire lives to experience. As Rebecca passed our row, her eyes flickered briefly to Emma and then to me. She smiled, not the nervous, polite smile I'd expected, but a genuine, warm expression of gratitude. In that split second, I saw her acknowledgement of my presence, her appreciation for my being there, and her hope that we could all find a way to make this work. Emma squeezed my hand tighter as Rebecca reached the altar. "She's so pretty," she whispered. "Like a real princess." "Yes, she is," I whispered back, surprised to find that I meant it. Marcus stepped forward to take Rebecca's hand from her father, and the look that passed between them was so intimate, so private, that I felt like I was intruding just by witnessing it. This was what love looked like when it was right, when it was meant to be. This was what Marcus and I had never quite achieved, no matter how hard we'd tried. The officiant, an older pastor I didn't recognize, began speaking about love and commitment and the sacred nature of marriage. His words washed over me as I watched Marcus and Rebecca, seeing in their faces everything I'd thought Marcus and I had shared but apparently hadn't. "Dearly beloved," the pastor intoned, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Marcus and Rebecca in holy matrimony." The familiar words felt surreal in this context. I'd heard them before, spoken over Marcus and me in this very place. But now they were for someone else, marking someone else's beginning while serving as a reminder of my ending. Emma stood on her toes, trying to get a better view of the ceremony. I lifted her slightly, letting her see over the heads of the people in front of us. Her face was wrapped with attention, drinking in every detail of the ceremony she'd been preparing for all week. "If anyone here present knows of any reason why Marcus and Rebecca should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace." The traditional words sent a chill through me. In movies, this was always the moment when someone objected. When long-lost lovers declared their feelings or family secrets were revealed. But this wasn't a movie. This was real life, and the only person who might have objected was sitting quietly in the third row, holding her daughter's hand and trying not to cry. The pause stretched for what felt like an eternity but was probably only a few seconds. Then the pastor continued, and I released a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Marcus," the pastor said, turning to the groom, "do you take Rebecca to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live?" "I do." Marcus's voice was strong and clear, carrying easily through the church. He was looking directly at Rebecca, his expression so tender and certain that it took my breath away. "Rebecca, do you take Marcus to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live?" "I do." Rebecca's voice was softer but equally certain, and I could see tears of happiness beginning to form in her eyes. Emma tugged on my dress. "Are they married now?" she whispered. "Almost," I whispered back. "They still need to exchange rings." The ring ceremony began, and I watched as Marcus and Rebecca slipped wedding bands onto each other's fingers, the same ritual Marcus and I had performed, the same promises being made. But these promises felt different, felt more real somehow. Maybe because they were between two people who'd chosen each other with full knowledge of what marriage required, who'd entered into this commitment with their eyes wide open. Or maybe because I could see in their faces that they meant every word. By the power vested in me by the state and by God, the pastor announced, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Marcus, you may kiss your bride. The kiss was tender and brief, appropriate for the church setting but filled with such obvious love and happiness that I felt tears finally spill over. They were tears of grief, yes, for the marriage I'd lost and the future I'd once imagined. But they were also tears of something else, relief, perhaps, or even gratitude. Gratitude that Marcus had found this kind of happiness, that Emma would grow up seeing what real love looked like, that I could witness this moment and know that some endings really were just beginnings in disguise. The congregation erupted in applause as Marcus and Rebecca turned to face their friends and family as a married couple. Their faces were radiant, glowing with joy and love and the promise of their future together. Emma was clapping enthusiastically, bouncing on her toes with excitement. They did it. They're married. Daddy has a wife. As the newly married couple began their recessional down the aisle, they paused briefly at our row. Rebecca leaned down to kiss Emma's cheek, and Marcus squeezed her hand. Thank you for being here, sweetheart, he said to Emma, his voice thick with emotion. Then he looked at me, and for a moment, the church full of people faded away. It was just the two of us, the former husband and wife, acknowledging what had just happened. Thank you, he said simply. I nodded, not trusting my voice to work properly. Congratulations, I managed, and then they were gone, walking back down the aisle surrounded by their wedding party, their faces glowing with happiness as they headed toward their new life together. The congregation began to file out, following the wedding party to the reception hall next door. Emma was practically vibrating with excitement, chattering about the ceremony and how beautiful everything had been, but I remained seated for a moment longer, looking up at the altar where it had all happened. The altar where I'd married Marcus 11 years ago, full of hope and love and certainty about our future. The altar where I'd just watched him marry someone else with the same hope and love, but with a certainty that felt more grounded, more real. It was over. The chapter of my life that had begun in this church 11 years ago had finally, officially, completely ended. And somehow, sitting in that pew with my daughter's hand in mine, I felt not devastated but oddly peaceful. Marcus had found his person. Emma had gained someone who would love and care for her. And I was free to figure out what came next. Mommy? Emma tugged on my sleeve. Are you okay? Everyone's leaving for the party. I looked down at her sweet, concerned face and smiled, the first genuine smile I'd felt all day. I'm okay, sweetheart. I'm actually okay. And for the first time since receiving that cream-colored invitation, I realized I really was. The reception hall was adjacent to the church, connected by a covered walkway lined with more white roses and twinkling lights. As Emma and I made our way along the path with the other guests, I could hear the sounds of celebration ahead, laughter, music, and the gentle clink of glasses. Look, Mommy. Emma pointed excitedly at the decorations. It's like a fairy tale. She wasn't wrong. Rebecca and Marcus had transformed the simple parish hall into something magical. White fabric draped from the ceiling, creating an elegant canopy effect. Round tables covered in crisp white linens were adorned with centerpieces of white roses and greenery. String lights hung everywhere, casting a warm, romantic glow over the entire space. A receiving line had formed near the entrance, with Marcus and Rebecca greeting each guest personally. I felt my stomach clench as we approached, uncertain about the protocol for this situation. What do you say to your ex-husband and his new wife in a receiving line? Congratulations? Thank you for inviting me to watch you promise to love someone else forever? Hope you're happier with her than you were with me. Emma had no such hesitations. When our turn came, she practically launched herself at Marcus, who swept her up in a huge hug. Daddy. That was the most beautiful wedding ever. You looked so handsome. And Rebecca looked like a princess. Marcus's face lit up as he held his daughter. Thank you, sweetheart. Did you like the ceremony? I loved it. Especially when you kissed. And the music. And the flowers. Can I have a wedding like this someday? Not for a very, very long time. Marcus said with a laugh, setting her down. But yes, someday you can have whatever kind of wedding makes you happy. Rebecca knelt down to Emma's level, her wedding dress pooling around her gracefully. Emma, you look absolutely beautiful today. I love your dress. Thank you. Mommy and I picked it out special for your wedding. And look. Emma held up her wrist. to show the silver bracelet. I wore the present you gave me. It looks perfect on you, Rebecca said, her voice genuinely warm. Then she stood and turned to me, and for a moment, we just looked at each other, the wife and the ex-wife, the past and the future, standing face to face in wedding finery. Sarah, Rebecca said softly. Thank you so much for coming. For bringing Emma. It means everything to us. Thank you for including us, I replied, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. The ceremony was beautiful. You both looked very happy. We are, she said simply. Very happy. Marcus stepped beside his new wife, and for a moment, the three of us stood there in an awkward triangle of complicated history. Then he cleared his throat. Sarah, I know this isn't easy. But having you here, having Emma here, it feels right. Like we're all going to be okay. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Because he was right, it did feel like we were all going to be okay, even if that okay looked completely different than anything I'd imagined. We should let you greet your other guests, I said, gesturing to the line forming behind us. Of course. But save a dance for me later, Marcus said to his daughter. Can I dance with Rebecca too? Emma asked. Absolutely, Rebecca replied. I've been looking forward to it. We moved away from the receiving line, and I took a moment to survey the reception. A DJ was setting up in one corner, while servers circulated with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The crowd was mingling, friends and family from both sides mixing together in the warm glow of the celebration. Where should we sit? Emma asked, studying the various tables. I looked around for place cards or a seating chart, but saw none. It appeared to be open seating, which presented its own challenges. Where does the ex-wife sit at her former husband's wedding? Too close to the head table seemed presumptuous. Too far away might hurt Emma's feelings or make it seem like I was sulking. Let's find a table with some people we know, I suggested. We located a table about halfway back that included Mrs. Patterson, Emma's teacher, and her family, along with another couple I recognized from Emma's school events. Safe territory. People who knew our situation but weren't emotionally invested in the drama. Sarah. Mrs. Patterson stood up as we approached. I'm so glad to see you here. You look lovely. Thank you. This is all quite beautiful, isn't it? Absolutely gorgeous. And Emma, she turned to my daughter, you were such a good girl during the ceremony. I saw you sitting so nicely and quietly. Emma beamed with pride. I practiced. I read about wedding etiquette in the library. As we settled at the table, I felt some of the tension in my shoulders ease. This was manageable. These were friendly faces, normal conversation, people who weren't dissecting my every expression for signs of jealousy or breakdown. The other couple at the table, the Johnsons, had a daughter in Emma's class. They made polite conversation about school events and summer plans, carefully avoiding any mention of the unusual circumstances of my presence at the wedding. Servers began bringing out the first course, a delicate butternut squash soup garnished with herbs. Everything was elegant and tasteful, clearly the product of careful planning and generous budget. Marcus had done well for himself since our divorce, and it showed in every detail of this celebration. The food smells amazing, Emma announced, diving into her soup with enthusiasm. This is the fanciest dinner I've ever had. I watched her enjoy the meal, her excitement infectious. She was having the time of her life, and that made everything else worthwhile. Whatever discomfort I was feeling, whatever complex emotions were churning in my chest, Emma's joy made it all bearable. During the salad course, Marcus's father approached our table. Frank Harrison looked distinguished in his black suit, though. I could see the effects of his recent health issues in the way he moved more slowly than before. Sarah, he said warmly, I wanted to come over and thank you for being here. It means a lot to us, to all of us. I stood up, accepting his embrace. Frank had always been kind to me, even after the divorce. Of course, Frank. I wouldn't have missed it. You're a class act, you know that? Not every woman would handle this situation with such grace. I'm just trying to do what's best for Emma. That little girl is lucky to have you as her mother, he said, ruffling Emma's hair. And she's lucky to have Rebecca as a stepmother too. That young woman has been nothing but wonderful with Emma. It was true, and I appreciated that he acknowledged both relationships rather than trying to choose sides. Rebecca is very good. With her. Margaret and I, we were worried about how this would all work out. Blended families can be complicated. But seeing you here today, seeing how mature you're all being about it, well, it gives us hope that Emma's going to have the best of all worlds. After Frank returned to his table, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to find Dave Morrison, Marcus's college roommate and former best man, standing behind me with his wife Linda. "Sarah, hey," Dave said, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Could we talk for a minute? Privately?" I glanced at Emma, who was deep in conversation with Mrs. Patterson about the wedding flowers. Of course. We stepped away from the table, moving to a quieter corner of the reception hall. Dave looked even more uncomfortable up close, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "Look, I just wanted to apologize," he began. "For how things went down. For not staying in touch after the divorce. For taking sides, I guess." "Dave, you don't need to apologize. You and Marcus have been friends since college. Of course you stayed loyal to him. But it wasn't fair to you. You were our friend too. Linda and we talked about reaching out, especially after we heard about the affair, but we didn't know what to say. And then time passed, and it got weird, and it's okay," I interrupted. "Really. These situations are hard on everyone. You're being way too understanding about this," Linda chimed in. "I told Dave we should have called you. Should have checked on you. You were always so good to our kids, and we failed you as friends." I felt tears prick my eyes at her honesty. "You didn't fail me. The marriage failed. That's not on any of our friends." "Still," Dave said, "seeing you here today, handling this with such dignity, it makes me realize what we lost when we lost you from our circle. Marcus is happy, and I'm glad for him. But you were good for him too, for a long time. And you deserved better friends during your divorce." "Thank you for saying that. It means more than you know." We returned to the table as the main course was being served, herb-crusted salmon with roasted vegetables. Emma was chattering excitedly about the dancing to come, having spotted the DJ setting up his equipment. As we ate, I found myself relaxing into the rhythm of the reception. The food was excellent, the company was pleasant, and Emma was having the time of her life. I even found myself enjoying some of the conversations, laughing at stories about Emma's classroom antics and discussing summer vacation plans. The sun was beginning to set outside the tall windows, casting golden light across the reception hall. Marcus and Rebecca made their rounds to each table, thanking guests and accepting congratulations. When they reached our table, Emma immediately launched into her prepared speech. "Daddy and Rebecca, I want to thank you for letting me come to your wedding. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and I'm so happy that you love each other and that you're married now. And Rebecca, thank you for being so nice to me and for making my daddy smile so much. I hope you have the best marriage ever." There wasn't a dry eye at the table. Rebecca knelt down and hugged Emma tightly, and I could see tears in her eyes. "Thank you, sweetheart. That was the most beautiful speech anyone's ever given me." Marcus was beaming with pride. "That's my girl. Always knows exactly what to say." As they moved on to the next table, the DJ announced that it was time for the first dance. Marcus and Rebecca took the floor as the opening notes of "At Last" by Etta James filled the room. They moved together with an easy grace, lost in each other in the moment. Emma watched with rapt attention. "They're really good dancers," she observed. "Yes, they are. Did you and Daddy dance like that at your wedding?" The question caught me off guard. "We danced, yes. But maybe not quite like that. They look like they're in a movie." She was right. They did look like they were in a movie, the beautiful bride and handsome groom, swaying together in perfect harmony while their loved ones watched with approval and joy. It was everything a wedding dance should be. Other couples began joining them on the dance floor as the song continued. I watched Marcus's parents dance, Rebecca's parents, various friends and relatives. Everyone looked happy, everyone looked like they belonged there, everyone except me. The realization hit suddenly and unexpectedly. I was the only person at this reception who didn't quite fit, who was there by invitation rather than natural inclusion. I was the outsider, the complication, the reminder of Marcus's past at his celebration of the future. "Mommy, are you okay?" Emma's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. I looked down at her concerned face and forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thinking. Want to dance with me?" Before I could answer, she was pulling me toward the dance floor. The music had changed to something more upbeat, and soon we were spinning and laughing together among the other dancers. Emma's joy was infectious. And for a few minutes, I forgot about everything except the happiness on my daughter's face. But as the song ended and we made our way back to our table, I caught sight of Marcus and Rebecca standing near the head table, surrounded by their wedding party. They were laughing at something one of the groomsmen had said, completely at ease. And radiantly happy, and that's when it hit me with crystal clarity. This was their night, their celebration, their beginning. And no matter how graciously I'd been included, no matter how well I thought I was handling things, I didn't belong here. Emma, I said quietly, sitting down beside her. What would you think about heading home soon? It's getting late, and you have that birthday party tomorrow morning. But we haven't had cake yet. And Daddy said he wanted to dance with me. And I want to give Rebecca the cookies we made. She was right, of course. We couldn't leave without the cake cutting, without Emma's dance with her father, without delivering the cookies that she'd been so excited about. I was trapped by my daughter's expectations and my own commitment to seeing this through. You're right. We'll stay for cake and your dance with Daddy. Emma beamed, already planning her moment on the dance floor with Marcus. But as I sat there, watching the celebration continue around us, I felt the walls of the reception hall closing in. Every laugh, every toast, every moment of joy felt like a reminder of what I'd lost and what I'd never had. The cake cutting was announced, and Emma dragged me closer to watch. Marcus and Rebecca stood behind an elaborate 3-tier cake decorated with the same white roses that adorned every other surface. They cut the first slice together, feeding each other with the playful intimacy of a couple completely comfortable with each other. Make a wish, someone called out, and Rebecca closed her eyes briefly before they cut the second slice. I wondered what she'd wished for. More happiness? A long marriage? Children of her own? Whatever it was, I found myself hoping it would come true. Despite everything, despite the pain of watching the celebration, I genuinely wanted them to be happy. As cake was distributed to the tables, the DJ announced the father-daughter dance. My heart clenched as I watched Marcus take Emma's hand and lead her onto the dance floor. The song was Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder, the same song Marcus and I had danced to at our wedding reception during the father-daughter dance with my own father. Emma stood on Marcus's feet as they swayed to the music, her face glowing with pure joy. This was her moment with her daddy, and she was savoring every second of it. Marcus was talking to her quietly, making her laugh, creating a memory that would last her lifetime. They're beautiful together, Rebecca said softly, appearing beside me. I started, not having heard her approach. They are. She's been looking forward to that dance all week. She's such a special little girl. You've done an amazing job raising her. Thank you. That means a lot, coming from you. Rebecca was quiet for a moment, watching Marcus and Emma on the dance floor. Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you okay? Really okay? Because I keep looking over at you, and you seem, I don't know, sad. Her perceptiveness surprised me. I'm fine. This is just a lot. Being here, seeing all this. I can't imagine how hard this must be. If the situation were reversed, I don't think I could handle it with nearly as much grace as you're showing. I looked at her, this young woman who'd married my ex-husband, who was now my daughter's stepmother, who was trying so hard to make everyone comfortable with an inherently uncomfortable situation. Rebecca, can I ask you something now? Anything. Do you love her? Emma, I mean, really love her, not just because she's Marcus's daughter. Rebecca's expression grew serious. I love her completely. From the first day Marcus introduced us, she worked her way into my heart. I know I can never replace you, and I wouldn't want to. But I love that little girl like she's my own. The sincerity in her voice was unmistakable. Whatever else I might feel about this situation, I knew Emma was truly loved and cared for by her stepmother. Thank you, I said. For loving her. For being good to her. Thank you for sharing her with me. As the song ended and Marcus lifted Emma into the air, spinning her around to her delighted squeals, I felt something shift inside me. The tight knot of anxiety and grief that had been lodged in my chest all day began to loosen slightly. This wasn't about me. This wasn't about what I'd lost or what might have been. This was about Emma having more people in her life who loved her, about Marcus finding happiness, about a family expanding rather than breaking apart. But even as I had this realization, Even as I felt some measure of peace settling over me, I knew the hardest moment was still to come. Because as the evening wound down, as the reception began to transition from formal celebration to casual after-party, Emma would inevitably ask the question I'd been dreading all day, and when she did, everything would change. The evening had reached that golden hour when receptions begin to shift from formal celebration to relaxed gathering. The older guests were starting to collect their purses and say their goodbyes, while the younger crowd was settling in for dancing and continued festivities. The string quartet had packed up, leaving the dance floor to the DJ who was now playing a mix of contemporary hits and classic wedding favorites. Emma had just finished her promised dance with Rebecca, spinning and twirling in her pale blue dress while Rebecca guided her through simple steps, both of them laughing with pure joy. Watching them together, I felt that familiar mix of gratitude and heartache that had defined this entire day. "Mommy, look what Rebecca taught me." Emma bounded over to our table, immediately demonstrating a little spin move. "She said I'm a natural dancer, just like Daddy." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," I said, glancing at my watch. It was nearly 8 o'clock, well past Emma's usual bedtime, though she showed no signs of fatigue. If anything, the excitement of the day seemed to have energized her beyond her normal limits. Mrs. Patterson and her family had already left, along with most of the other families with young children. The crowd was thinning, and I knew this was our cue to begin thinking about departure. I'd successfully navigated the ceremony, the receiving line, the dinner, and the dancing. We delivered the cookies Emma had made, which Rebecca had accepted with genuine tears of gratitude. Emma had her special moments with both Marcus and Rebecca, creating memories that would last her lifetime. Mission accomplished. We could leave with our dignity intact and Emma's happiness preserved. "Emma," I said gently, "we should probably start thinking about heading home soon. It's getting late, and you have Mia's birthday party tomorrow morning." "But the party's just getting started," Emma protested, gesturing toward the dance floor where several couples were swaying to a slow song. "And look, Daddy and Rebecca are dancing again. They're so good at it." I followed her gaze to see Marcus and Rebecca in the center of the dance floor, moving together with the easy intimacy of a couple who'd found their perfect match. They were talking quietly as they danced, probably sharing private jokes or sweet nothings, lost in their own world of newlywed bliss. "I know, but good parties know when to end on a high note," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "We've had such a wonderful time, and we want to remember it that way." Emma considered this with the seriousness she applied to all major decisions. "Can we say goodbye to everyone first? I want to thank Daddy and Rebecca again, and I want to hug Grandma and Grandpa Harrison, and I should probably thank the cake people because that was the best cake I've ever had. Of course we can say goodbye properly." We made our rounds through the remaining guests, Emma charming everyone with her polite thank yous and excitement about the wedding. Marcus's parents hugged us both warmly, with Margaret whispering in my ear, "You're a remarkable woman, Sarah. Emma is lucky to have you." Frank slipped a $20 bill into Emma's hand, for being the best-behaved little girl at the wedding, which made her beam with pride. Finally, we approached Marcus and Rebecca, who were standing near the cake table talking with some of Rebecca's college friends. When Marcus saw us coming, he broke away from the group with a warm smile. "There are my favorite girls," he said, kneeling down to Emma's level. "Did you have fun today, sweetheart?" "The best fun ever." Emma threw her arms around his neck. "Thank you for letting me be in your wedding. It was perfect. Thank you for being here. You made everything more special." Rebecca joined them, still glowing with happiness despite the long day. "Emma, you were absolutely perfect today. Like a little princess. Thank you for teaching me how to dance. And for letting me be part of your wedding. And for being so nice to me always." As Emma hugged Rebecca, I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. This was it, the moment of goodbye, the transition back to our regular lives after this surreal interlude. "We should head home," I said to Marcus. "It's been a long day, and Emma has a birthday party tomorrow." "Of course," Marcus nodded. "Let me walk you to your car." "That's not necessary, I want to," he interrupted gently. We collected our things, Emma's small purse, the empty container that had held our cookies, my wrap, and began making our way toward the exit. The reception was still in full swing behind us, but our part in it was over. As we walked through the church parking lot toward my car, Emma skipped between Marcus and me, chattering about all the details of the day she wanted to remember. The night air was cool and crisp, a relief after the warmth of the crowded reception hall. "Daddy, will you and Rebecca have parties like this all the time now that you're married?" Emma asked. Marcus laughed. "Not quite like this, sweetheart. This was a special celebration because we were getting married. But we'll have other kinds of parties and celebrations. Like Christmas parties? And birthday parties? And maybe anniversary parties every year?" "Exactly like that." We reached my car, and I fumbled in my purse for the keys, eager to get Emma buckled in and begin the drive home. The day had been emotionally exhausting, and I was running on fumes now that the adrenaline was wearing off. "Thank you again, Marcus," said as I unlocked the car. "For coming, for bringing Emma, for handling all of this with such class. I know it couldn't have been easy." "You're welcome," I replied. "She had a wonderful time. That's what matters." Emma was examining her silver bracelet in the dim parking lot light, turning her wrist to make it catch the glow from the church's exterior lighting. "This is the most beautiful bracelet ever," she announced. "I'm going to wear it every day to remember today." "That's a lovely idea," I said, opening the back door of the car. "Come on, sweetheart, let's get you buckled in." But Emma didn't move toward the car. Instead, she looked up at Marcus, then at me, then back at Marcus with an expression of sudden uncertainty. "Daddy," she said slowly. "Where are you going now?" "Rebecca and I are going back to the reception for a little while longer, and then we're going to our hotel. We're flying to Hawaii tomorrow for our honeymoon, remember?" "Oh." Emma's face scrunched up in concentration. "And then when you come back, you'll go to your apartment?" "Actually, Rebecca and I are going to move into a house together. A bigger place, with a yard and a guest room for when you stay over." Emma's eyes lit up. "A guest room just for me?" "Just for you." Rebecca picked out special furniture and everything. I could see where this conversation was heading, and my stomach began to clench with anticipation. Emma was working something out in her 7-year-old mind, and I had a feeling I wasn't going to like her conclusion. "That sounds wonderful," I interjected quickly. "We can see it next weekend when you have your regular time with Daddy. But right now, we need to get home." "Mommy," Emma said, turning to me with that serious expression she wore when she was about to say something important. "Can we go home with Daddy tonight?" The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Marcus went very still. I felt the blood drain from my face. And for a moment, the parking lot was filled with absolute silence. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" I managed to ask, though my voice sounded strange and distant to my own ears. "I mean, can we go to Daddy's hotel? Or his new house? All of us together?" Emma looked between Marcus and me with innocent hope. We had such a nice time today, and we all seemed so happy together. Like a real family. So I thought maybe we could all go home together. The silence stretched longer this time. Marcus was staring at Emma with an expression of shock and something that might have been pain. I felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet, leaving me scrambling for balance. "Emma," I began carefully, "you know that Daddy and I are divorced. We don't live together anymore." "I know that," she said with 7-year-old logic. "But maybe you could undivorce? Like, if you both had such a nice time today, maybe you remembered that you like each other?" My heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces. This was the moment I'd been dreading all day, the question I'd known was coming but hadn't prepared for properly. How do you explain to a child that some endings are permanent? That sharing one beautiful day doesn't erase years of problems? That loving someone enough to want them to be happy sometimes means accepting that their happiness doesn't include you. "Sweetheart," Marcus said gently, kneeling down to Emma's level, "Mommy and I can't undivorce. When grown-ups get divorced, it means they've decided they're better as friends than as husband and wife. But you both seemed so happy today. And you were nice to each other. And you both love me." "We do both love you," I said, my voice thick with unshed tears. "So much. But loving you doesn't mean Daddy and I should be married to each other." Emma's face was beginning to crumple as the reality of our answer sank in. "But I want us all to be together. I want to live in the new house. With the guest room, but I want you to come too, Mommy. I want us to be a family like other families." The tears were flowing freely now, both hers and mine. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into the pavement. Around us, other wedding guests were making their way to their cars, some glancing curiously at our little family drama playing out in the church parking lot. "Oh, Baby, I knelt down beside Marcus, pulling Emma into a hug. We are a family. We're just a different kind of family. You have mommy and daddy who both love you very much, and now you have Rebecca who loves you, too. Some families live in one house, and some families live in different houses but still love each other just as much. But why can't we try living in the same house? Just to see if it works? Marcus and I looked at each other over Emma's head, both of us struggling with how to handle this impossible moment. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that love isn't always enough? That good people can be wrong for each other? That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone go. Emma, Marcus said softly, you know how sometimes you have friends at school that you really like, but you wouldn't want to live with them? I guess, well, mommy and I are like that. We care about each other very much, and we both love you more than anything in the world. But we're better at being your parents when we live in different houses. And, I added, trying to keep my voice steady, if Daddy and I lived together, then he wouldn't be married to Rebecca. And Rebecca makes him very happy. You said so yourself, you like how much he smiles now. Emma pulled back from our hug, wiping her nose on her sleeve. But what if Rebecca could live with us too? What if we all lived together in a really big house? Despite everything, I almost smiled at her innocent solution. If only life were that simple, that flexible, that forgiving. That's not really how families work, sweetheart, Marcus said gently. But here's what I can promise you, even though we live in different houses, you'll always have both of us. You'll always have 2 homes where you're loved and wanted and safe. 3 homes, Rebecca's voice said softly behind us. We all turned to see her standing a few feet away, clearly having come looking for Marcus. Her wedding dress was slightly rumpled now, and her elaborate hairstyle was beginning to come loose, but her face was full of compassion as she looked at Emma's tear-streaked face. What do you mean? Emma asked. I mean you'll have 3 homes. Where you're loved, Rebecca said, moving closer. Your home with mommy, your home with daddy and me, and your home in your heart where all the people who love you live together, even when their bodies are in different places. Emma considered this with the seriousness she applied to all of Rebecca's explanations. So even when I'm at one house, the other people are still in my heart house? Exactly. And the best part about the heart house is that it never gets too crowded, and nobody ever has to leave. For the first time since asking her question, Emma's face showed a glimmer of understanding, maybe even acceptance. So today, she said slowly, we were all in the same place at the same time, but usually we're all in my heart house? That's right, I said, feeling a rush of gratitude toward Rebecca for finding the perfect words when I'd been struggling. And in my heart house, everyone is happy and loves each other. Everyone is happy and loves each other, Marcus confirmed. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing this new framework for understanding her family situation. Finally, she looked up at the 3 adults surrounding her, her mother, her father, and her stepmother, and nodded with decision. Okay, she said. I think I understand. Today was special because we all got to be in the same place, but every day is special because we're all in my heart house. Exactly, Rebecca said, kneeling down to join Marcus and me at Emma's level. And you know what? Today was so wonderful that I'm going to keep it in my heart house forever too. Really? Really? The picture of you dancing with Daddy, and the way you looked so beautiful in your blue dress, and how proud you made me feel when you gave us that speech. All of it is going in my heart house to keep forever. Emma smiled through her remaining tears, the crisis passing as quickly as it had arrived. Can we take a picture together? All of us? For my heart house? I looked at Marcus, who looked at Rebecca, who looked back at me. We were quite a sight, the bride and groom in their wedding finery, the ex-wife in her carefully chosen navy dress, and the 7-year-old in blue who had just asked the question that could have shattered everything, but instead had somehow brought us to a place of deeper understanding. I think that's a perfect idea, Rebecca said. Marcus pulled out his phone, and we arranged ourselves in a small group, Rebecca and Marcus in the center, Emma in front of them, and me standing slightly to the side. As the camera clicked, capturing this moment that would have seemed impossible 6 months ago, I realized that Emma had been right about one thing: we were a family. Just not the kind anyone would have expected. As we said our final goodbyes and Emma hugged everyone one more time, she looked up at me with eyes that seemed older than her 7 years. Mommy, I'm sorry I asked about living together. I know it made you sad. Oh, sweetheart, you never have to apologize for asking questions. Questions are how we figure out how the world works. And I think I figured out how our world works now. How's that? Love doesn't always look the same, but it's always real. Out of the mouths of babes.as we drove home through the quiet Saturday night streets. Emma fell asleep in her car seat, still wearing her silver bracelet and clutching a small piece of wedding cake wrapped in a napkin. In the rearview mirror, I could see her peaceful face, and I marveled at her resilience, her wisdom, her ability to find happiness even in complicated situations. The day I'd been dreading for weeks was over. I'd survived watching my ex-husband marry someone else in the church where we'd been married. I'd navigated complex social dynamics and painful emotions. I'd faced my daughter's innocent but devastating question about why we couldn't all be together, and somehow, we'd all emerged intact. Different, maybe. Changed, certainly. But intact. At home, I carried Emma inside and helped her out of her wedding finery, hanging the blue dress carefully in her closet and placing the silver bracelet in her jewelry box. She was too tired to brush her teeth properly, so I helped her through her bedtime routine and tucked her into bed. "Mommy," she said sleepily as I was about to turn off her light. "Yes, baby? Today was the best day ever. Thank you for taking me to Daddy's wedding." "You're welcome, sweetheart. I'm glad you had such a wonderful time." "And Mommy? I love you the most. Even with all the people in my heart house, you're still my number one." I kissed her forehead, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo mixed with the lingering sweetness of wedding cake. "I love you too, Emma. More than all the stars in the sky. And more than all the fish in the sea. And more than all the fish in the sea. And more than all the heart houses in the whole world. And more than all the heart houses in the whole world." Satisfied with this ritual declaration of love, Emma closed her eyes and drifted off to sleep, her face peaceful and content. I stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her breathe, marveling at the day we'd just shared. Then I went to my own room, changed into pajamas, and sat on my bed with a cup of tea, finally allowing myself to process everything that had happened. I'd been so afraid of this day. Afraid of breaking down, afraid of embarrassing myself, afraid of Emma being hurt or confused. But none of those fears had materialized. Instead, I discovered reserves of strength I didn't know I possessed. I'd witnessed my ex-husband's genuine happiness with someone who clearly loved him and our daughter. I'd seen Emma handle complex emotions with grace and wisdom that humbled me. Most importantly, I'd learned that love really doesn't always look the same, but it's always real. The love Marcus and I had shared was real, even though it hadn't lasted. The love he shared with Rebecca was real, and different, and right for both of them. The love Emma and I shared was real and permanent and unshakable. And yes, even the growing affection between Emma and Rebecca was real and precious and something to be celebrated rather than feared. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Rebecca. "Thank you for today. Thank you for sharing Emma with us. Thank you for being gracious when you could have been bitter. Today was perfect because you made it perfect. Emma is lucky to have you." I typed back, "Thank you for loving them both. Take care of each other." She replied immediately, "Always." I set my phone aside and finished my tea, looking out my bedroom window at the quiet suburban street where Emma and I had built our life together. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions, new opportunities to figure out how our unconventional family would continue to work, but tonight, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel after watching my ex-husband's wedding: peace. The kind of deep, settled peace that comes from surviving something you thought might destroy you and discovering that you're stronger than you knew. Emma was right. Today had been the best day ever. Not because it was easy, but because it was real. Because we'd all chosen love over bitterness, understanding over resentment, hope over fear, and sometimes, that's the most beautiful wedding gift of all. The end. 6 months later, I would receive another cream-colored envelope, this time, an invitation to Rebecca's baby shower. Emma would insist on making cookies for that celebration too, and she would chatter excitedly about becoming a big sister. By then, our unusual family arrangement would feel normal, even natural, but that's a story for another day. Tonight, I was content to sit in my quiet house, grateful for the daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall, grateful for the ex-husband who'd found happiness with someone who deserved him, and grateful for my own strength and resilience. Love doesn't always look the same, but it's always real. Emma had taught me that. And in teaching me, she'd given me the greatest gift of all, the knowledge that some endings are really just beginnings in disguise, and some families are held together not by living arrangements or legal documents, but by the unbreakable bonds of the heart. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss any upload from us.